Hello, I'm Bob from Bob's Workshop. In today's video, I put together a base to go with my Hofbrauhaus Restaurant. The restaurant looks pretty good, but it needs something to rest upon to help it blend into the landscape of my O-scale layout. So I made a base using foam insulation, mostly. Here it is, and I hope you like it. I'm pretty happy with this. I'm kind of proud. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Here it is. There aren't a lot of O-scale buildings with a medieval flair offered in America. I don't even know if there are any available in Europe. But I do know that it's the look I'm after for my own layout here in Ohio. I like the exposed timbers, the stucco, or the stacked stone, and I've been a fan of orange-tiled roofs ever since I watched the original Willy Wonka with Gene Wilder. He's also in Silver Streak, so he's in 2 of my favorite movies. But I'm getting off track. To get back on topic, I need to talk about model buildings made from foam core, XPS insulation, hot glue, and cardboard. A few years ago, my family and I were at the original Hofbrauhaus Restaurant, and I loved everything about it. The atmosphere, the food, the history, and its overall appearance left a very big impression on me. So, combining my interest in German restaurants with my newly found pastime of constructing foam core buildings, well, that seemed like a logical next step. I made the railings from styrene plastic. I used acrylic craft paint and homemade inkjet decals to complete the exterior, and at some point there may be an interior, along with some LED lighting. I'm pretty happy with the building, even though it's only about 90% finished. I placed it on the upper level of my layout, but what would really help it shine is a base. Some sort of street scene around it, so it's not just sitting on black plywood. It was early January when I went to Menards. I needed some spray paint, and of course I wanted to check out the train aisle. I also wanted to look at their selection of XPS foam insulation. And I guess $18 for a big sheet isn't too bad, but it's not as good as free. What is that? You got your new stick? Let's bring it home. Millie is good at finding things on our walks, usually just sticks and occasionally deer poop. But then we found a garbage can full of extruded polystyrene insulation. We came back with the car and grabbed all of it. This is probably 40 or 60 bucks worth of this stuff, and it's going to last a long time for a variety of future projects. But it's just what I needed as a base for my German restaurant. I cut out a piece of plywood to fit the space before gluing down the foam. It'll become a module of sorts that can be removed in case I ever want to put something different in this corner. Because space is at such a premium here on my layout, I decided to add a little wing of foam cantilevered out over the tunnel opening. It will allow for a bigger sidewalk area surrounding the restaurant, and I think it's going to help out a lot. I didn't show it here, but I used a clamp to hold the 2 pieces together until they dried. And after it dried, I realized that my locomotive and boxcars didn't have enough room in the curves, so I removed a section, and then I realized that the cut part could also be reused as a stone wall above the tracks. I almost threw it away. So that's the overall basic shape. And now I start adding details, carvings, and stamped areas to make it more street-like. First, I'll add a raised sidewalk around the building. It will lock it into place and also hide the fact that it's removable. A ruler and a pencil are all that's needed to create other sections of concrete that will frame in the stamped cobblestones. I think we all have an old paintbrush or two that can be sacrificed for the greater good. I'm turning this one into a stamping tool for making somewhat random cobblestones. There are many people on YouTube who play Dungeons and Dragons or other role-playing board games. They make foam core buildings and terrain for use with their games. Those channels are where I picked up a lot of tips and techniques, like using a brush in this way instead of for painting. The practice piece turned out pretty good, so now I'll move on to the real thing. It's taking a fair amount of time, but a repetitious yet creative task like this has always been kind of enjoyable for me. Even relaxing, really. If you have decent music going on in the background, the time goes by pretty quickly. And pretty soon, before you know it, the street section is ready to be sealed. While the Mod Podge was drying, I decided to make some posts for the area with my hot wire table set up. It's just like using a table saw, but you have to worry about breathing in fumes instead of sawdust. This will be a nice way to finish off the edges of the base. It definitely could also use a railing, but at this point I can't decide between a wrought iron type of look or just some sort of chain to keep patrons from falling over the sides. I'll figure that part out later. The side that butts up to the train tracks is much easier. Just a pencil to carve out stone blocks, which I'll coat with Mod Podge before painting the whole thing with black acrylic craft paint. A little bit of dry brushing with gray will be my color base coat for the cement and sidewalk. Weathering and washes will come later. I also brushed on little puddles of Mod Podge before sprinkling in some track ballast from Woodland Scenics. It will give the appearance of crumbling stone from above. Apart from the Mod Podge, everything I've brushed on and painted so far has been done with cheap craft paint from Walmart. 58 cents a bottle, and they have a big selection of colors. It's waterproof and permanent after it dries, so the washes that come later will not bother the base colors. Washes are going to be the key if I want to achieve a more realistic look. Here's the first of 2 shades of brown that I will use as a wash for the spaces between the cobblestones. Most of this will be wiped or blotted away with a damp paper towel, leaving just the spaces between to be filled with the browns. I thought I was recording that process, but I guess I wasn't. But you get the idea. The fallen rocks have gotten a little lost after a wash of burnt umber. I like that it's so dark between the areas of rubble, but I'll pick out individual pieces with colors that I have used on the stone walls above. Decals are the next step, and I made these on my computer. Inkjet decals are pretty awesome, but they would have trouble adhering to the flat finish of the craft paint. But a little diluted Mod Podge before applying them will make sure that these decals never peel off. A coat of Mod Podge went over the decals as well, still in a matching matte finish. After a few hours, a wash of light brown, followed by some dry brushing up and down. Well, those will help with the illusion that the signage is both old and painted rather than water-based inkjet decals. Aside from the railing, and I'm leaning towards using chain, this is just about done. Realistically, I tend to get projects 90% finished and then lose interest. So this may be how it looks forever. And if that's the case, I'm okay with it. There are plenty of other things to work on. This upper corner of my layout is definitely the restaurant district for my European village, even if there's only one restaurant. If your town only has one place to eat, you could do a lot worse than the Hofbrauhaus. I felt like I was done until I remembered the flat buildings that I printed out and glued to foam core. So this is what things might look like if the city built up around my Hofbrauhaus. Thank you for watching, and until next time, this has been Bob's Workshop. Take care.